Tansei, good afternoon. I'm Creeson Agecoutay. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. This morning, the RCMP released an internal review into the 2022 mass stabbing in Saskatchewan that left 11 people dead. It found there was no common underlying circumstance that significantly impacted the Mounties' ability to respond to the stabbing spree. The report delves into the initial call for service command, structures, public alerts, and response to victims. While the review is mostly positive, 36 recommendations were made that could enhance response to similar situations in the future.
The big piece that we're working towards is making sure we can fill our frontline positions and then have more of our experienced officers moving over to those specialized teams. And we're making great progress in being able to fill more of those frontline roles. We've got some initiatives underway that are going to bring more applicants and more cadets into the RCMP.
Miles Sanderson killed 11 people and wounded 17 others on the James Smith Cree Nation and in the nearby village of Weldon in 2022. He was arrested 3 days later and died of a cocaine overdose while in custody. To the Yukon now, where the Territorial Water Board has agreed to hear concerns about cleanup work at a contaminated mine site. Our Sarah Connors has more on that story.
The Yukon Water Board has granted the Little Salmon Carmacks First Nations request for a public hearing surrounding remediation work at the former Mount Nansen mine site. The hearing will focus on the Mount Nansen Remediation Limited Partnership, or MNRLP. The company is responsible for remediation work at the site, which is essentially returning a mine site to its natural state on behalf of the federal government. Last year, Little Salmon Carmacks submitted an application to the Water Board, saying the company was breaching its water license, leading to more contamination at the site. Besides amendments to the license, the First Nation is asking for compensation for loss and damages. Last month, the board agreed, stating a public hearing would be in the public interest and that Yukoners have great concern for seeing mines cared for. Little Salmon Carmacks Chief Nicole Tom declined an in-person interview, but she said in a statement the First Nation is hoping to reach a solution with the federal government before the hearing starts. According to MNRLP, it inherited a water license that was already in place before they took over in 2021. The company's CEO says it's fully committed to meeting the requirements of its license.
At the end of the day, our company wants to be seen as a project proponent that gets this site cleaned up.
Harrington says MNRLP is improving the water treatment facility already on site, an issue he claims wasn't fully addressed in the plant's initial design.
We're going to keep working at it with them until we get it right, and that's the commitment we have.
Harrington says MNRLP also hopes to find a solution before the hearing starts. It's anticipated to take place in November. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
A Métis company in the Northwest Territories is receiving federal dollars for a green energy study along Canada's biggest river. Our reporter Charlotte Moore Jacobs attended the public engagement sessions and brings us this report.
The Date Show, a source of life for Dene and Métis communities across the Northwest Territories. Now the Métis-owned Big River Services Centre is hoping to channel the mighty river's power to achieve zero carbon status using hydrokinetic technology. General Manager Linda Croft says they've received over $350,000 in federal funding to study the river's potential to generate energy using in-stream turbines.
It could be a huge financial win for businesses, right? Because of course we all know power's not cheap, and I won't divulge numbers, but it's a fair chunk every month that we have to provide. And if we can, one, get rid of the diesel, get rid of the emissions and that sort of thing, and rely on what the Creator gave us to produce that for zero or no, lowered, that's just phenomenal.
But first, community engagement, run by Gonzo Energy, an Indigenous-run company based in Fort Providence. Apprentice electrician Rogan Youngpine says they are asking for public input about the river's characteristics along with any changes noticed on the water. In particular, They want to know where best to install the turbines.
Because they have the most experience on the river, first-hand knowledge is well, the best, right? You can do a bunch of studies and not know much.
Agecoutay First Nation Councillor Bradley Tom is providing his feedback.
One of the questions is also about ice thickness and if there's places that don't freeze up over the year. And I've noticed just in my few years, well, I guess, how to say this? Yes, I have noticed that those changes in the ice thickness, like it's not as thick as it used to be, and it's probably because it's not as cold for as long as it used to be.
Elder Lucas Alize says his concerns involve safety for river crews because of record low water levels.
First time I've seen the water so low. Last year was around the fall time. I had a chance to go fishing. Got pulled the boat up early. Like in September or something like that. Got bring the boat up early. The water's too low.
Researchers from the Canadian Hydrokinetic Turbine Testing Centre will measure river flows in Fort Providence, Fort Simpson, Wrigley, and Jean Marie River. Part of the funding will go towards hiring 4 local interns to complete coursework and field tech days. Richard Lafferty is a local commercial diver from Fort Providence. He hopes the project succeeds.
I've dove in the shafts of the actual turbines up at Bluefish and just go down there to clear the debris out. Logs and stuff get stuck in there from time to time. And I can't see any harm to anybody or any fish or anything. You know, you look at the fish jump the falls on the Kakisa River, Lady Evelyn Falls. You know, they're really dynamic creatures. They won't be hurt by a simple run of the river because it's basically a big tube that just spins.
Research also includes an energy study on the impact of a microgrid on Fort Providence's energy load. Currently, the community uses primarily diesel. Charlotte Mart-Jacobs, APTN National News, Fort Providence.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Earlier this year, Canada's Auditor General released a report that says the Trudeau government is nowhere near meeting its commitment to close the First Nations housing gap by 2030. This week, a House of Commons committee is looking at ways this housing gap might be closed. On Tuesday afternoon, the Committee on Public Accounts heard from a number of witnesses, including Chief Lance Heyman of the Kaibawek First Nation in Quebec. He is part of an organization that leverages private capital from First Nations financial institutions to build homes on reserve. Heyman says with the federal government unable to meet the First Nations housing crisis, other options must be explored.
Home ownership, it's not for every First Nation, but it absolutely has to be part of the equation going forward. We have credit-worthy individuals who want to be able to pay for their housing, and it's unfair that, the dependency on social housing programs has left us in this particular situation.
After more than 100 years, a ceremonial headdress is finally coming home to the Siksika Nation. We'll tell you more when we're back in about 3 minutes. Welcome back. After more than a century of being held in a museum all the way in England, a ceremonial headdress is finally being returned home to the Siksika Nation in Alberta. Siksika councillors Strader Crowfoot and Marshall Wolf Collar were among the delegation who repatriated the Buffalo woman's headdress on Wednesday from the Memorial Museum and Art Gallery in Exeter, England. The headdress is crafted with buffalo horns, sacred feathers, porcupine quills, red cloth, and brass bells, and was once worn by a woman of the Blackfoot Holy Buffalo Woman Society. It's been in the museum since 1920 when it was handed over by Edgar Dewdney, a lieutenant governor of the Northwest Territories who helped create the reserve and residential school systems. The museum says he likely acquired the headdress through the enforcement of colonial assimilation policies against Indigenous people. In a statement by Josette Melting Talau of Siksika says, in part, the headdress holds immense sacred significance to the Blackfoot people. Its return symbolizes the recognition of our history and traditions and is a profound testament to our ancestors' spiritual and cultural practices. We are grateful to the Royal Albert Memorial Museum for respecting the sacredness of this headdress by facilitating its repatriation. The 5th Annual Indigenous Partnership Success Showcase, which fosters business relationships between Indigenous people and industry, is underway in Vancouver. APTN's Tina House joins us now from the event.
Thank you. We're here at the Indigenous Partnership Success Showcase, and joining me today is Hereditary Chief Ian Campbell. Chief Campbell, very nice to see you.
Thanks, Tina. It's always good to see you.
Tell me a little bit about what's happening down here.
Well, this is a celebration of Indigenous partnerships in a variety of sectors across Canada. It's my 3rd year being involved. It's the 5th year for the event itself. And it's really about storytelling. It's about showcasing what's working when it comes to economic reconciliation.
Amazing. You've got a lot of incredible people here joining us over the next couple of days. Can you take us through what's about to happen?
Well, this year we really wanted to celebrate our youth, our young leaders, to connect them to a variety of sectors, to give them meaningful careers, the post-secondary education, where they go from there, the trades, as well as women in leadership. I really wanted to celebrate, especially in an era of MMIW, the safety of our women, and we had a very powerful panel this morning that talked about gender equity and safety on major projects and how we're tackling that when it comes to bringing projects to fruition.
That's amazing, and absolutely MMIWG is a huge topic and huge crisis in this country. Going forward, I see a lot of heavy hitters in terms of corporations and companies that have joined you here.
Yeah, it's been really fascinating to see the curve of economic reconciliation, to remove the ambiguity for Canadians that, for Indigenous peoples, we're not asking for charity or goodwill. It's around collaboration, it's around providing certainty for projects within our territories to attract investment that meets our metrics for sustainable use of our territories. And it's been generations of effort, so I'm pleased that we're seeing a lot of tangible examples during IPSS.
We absolutely are, and it's right across the board from every sector, as you say. I mean, here just in Vancouver with the partnership between the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam, the land development, I mean, it's just crazy. There's a lot of people that are excited about the future, and we certainly heard of a lot of the showcases this morning. What else would you like to say about this event and what it means for the community?
Well, I'm tremendously grateful for everyone to attend. We have a great audience of leadership from across the country, from a variety of sectors, government, Indigenous leaders, and I really feel that this is an opportunity to celebrate. We can shoot holes through what's not working all day long, but this is an opportunity to celebrate what is working.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all your work in this. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Tina. In the spring of 2015, 2 fishermen drowned on the Bay of Quinte in southeastern Ontario. Police claimed the pair were stealing fish, overloaded their boat, and caused it to sink. Tonight on APTN Investigates, journalist Kenneth Jackson returns to Tyendinaga, Mohawk territory, to put those theories to the test. Here's a preview.
I thought it was in between those 2 trees right there.
Yeah, pretty good. I think they said it was right here and between these trees. we found the boat.
It's not even fair that we have to do this. And it should have been done a long time ago. Exactly. Not us.
Powerful story. You can catch APTN Investigates Secrets of the Bay Chapter 3 tomorrow night, immediately following the APTN National News. As the Oilers are now in the Stanley Cup Final against the Florida Panthers, we will have our APTN Hockey Night in Cree co-host, Jason Chamakison, next to talk about all the excitement for the next upcoming game. Stick around. Over on the west coast, St. John's 8, Charlottetown 15. Nujuak 14, La Grande River 29. Val-d'Or 21, St. Jovite 21 as well. Sarnia 23, North Bay 18. Sioux Lookout 11 with rain, Timmins 24 with partly cloudy. Churchill 1, Thompson 3 with rain. Winnipeg, sunny and 12, Dauphin 10. Swift Current 15, North Battleford 14 with sun. Stony Rapids 2 with rain, La Ronge 7 with sun. Rainy in Fort McMurray at 10, high level 11. Calgary 14, Lethbridge 25 with rain. Campbell River 11, Penticton 14. Dease Lake 4, Prince George 12. Mayo 8, Old Crow 9. Wati 12, Norman Wells 13. Inuvik 4, Colville Lake 12. Baker Lake 5, Chesterfield 1. Iqaluit 2, Arctic Bay 4. Meant to say the East Coast on that one. Apologies, everyone. It hasn't been that long since a Canadian team was in the Stanley Cup Finals, but it's been over 30 years since a Canadian team has hoisted Lord Stanley's mug. Starting this Saturday, the Edmonton Oilers are looking to end that streak by taking on last year's finalists, the Florida Panthers. The Oilers have made an amazing run to even get this far, let alone be in the finals. Joining us to talk about that is Oilers fan and co-host from APTN Hockey Night in Cree, Jason Chamakis. Thanks for joining us, Jason, and well, congrats to your Oilers on making the finals. How are you feeling about their playoff journey so far?
Very happy, very relieved. It's been quite an emotional roller coaster considering the start to their season. They were way at the bottom, and then now they're in the Cup Final, and I know that it makes a lot of fans happy, including myself, especially myself, because that's the Oilers. That's my team. It's always been.
Yeah.
Well, not always. Until McDavid showed up. That's when I became a fan.
At least you're honest. Yeah, at least you're honest.
Yeah. I'm no liar.
Yeah. What do you think they need to do to continue their momentum here?
I think, well, I'm no John Shabbat. John Shabbat is our analyst on Hockey Night in Canada. But what I think is they need to continue the play of their defense. They need to contain the puck a little bit better in the offensive zone and not let it trickle out as often. And their defense is doing okay. It's not as bad as it once was. So if they keep the defense, and if the goaltending continues as is, or even improves, they'll far better improve their chances of taking the cup.
Tapway, the Florida Panthers with Brandon Montour of Six Nations territory were last year's finalists. Do you think that will make it tougher for the Oilers?
Well, it's so unpredictable. It's really, really unpredictable with playoff hockey in general. It's hard to tell the outcome, and it's good that they made it to the finals. That's great, and they do have that experience. But for a lot of the Edmonton Oilers players, especially McDavid and Draisaitl, this is their first time making it to the finals, and I think it's in 18 years that the Canadian team has made it into the finals. So I think and I'll quote John Shabbat, whoever wants it more is going to win it. That's what he's always said during the games, and that's how I look at it this time around.
It has caused a lot of excitement in Edmonton and other locations across the country. What has it been like where you are?
It's kind of a mix. It's kind of a my voice cracked. It's kind of a mix out here because there are definitely a lot of Edmonton Oilers fans, but it's varied. There's a lot of different teams that a lot of people cheer for. But I do know in my house, it's Edmonton Oilers for us. And there are some Vegas Knights fans, but I'm not going to get into that. Anyways, me and my late dad, we used to sit there and watch the Oilers. And when they made it to the Cup Final, it really, really, it was emotional for me, especially going to that game and they won over in Edmonton. I went to a playoff game. And they ended up winning, and it was such an emotional time. And I imagine a lot of people feel that way throughout Oiler fandom. And I know some of my in-laws over in Frog Lake, Alberta, are really, really excited about this. Same with a lot of people throughout Alberta, throughout Treaty 6 territory, throughout the Cree Nation too. I know this because some years ago they drafted Ethan Bear, and he was from Ochapowace. He's from Ochapowace, a young Cree guy making it into the playoffs. I mean, not into the playoffs, into the NHL, playing with one of the favored teams in Indian country. So it's all really exciting.
Yeah, I was just going to mention Ethan Bear and give him a shout out. We're all very proud of him. And before we go, do you have a prediction, Jason, on what this next game is going to look like?
You're putting me on the spot. I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm not sure. Of course, I'm going to say the Oilers are going to win, but by what score, I don't know. I, honest to God, don't know. That's the unpredictability of this game. Like I said, at the beginning, at the very start of the season, they were in 31st place, right? And then they went on a 16-game winning streak at some point, and they elevated their standing, and then they came in, I think, second or third in their division, and they made it to the final. So unpredictable. It's hard to say, but of course I'm going to say Oilers are going to win it.
Yeah, well, you heard it here first, viewers. You heard it here from Jason. Jason, thanks for joining us today.
You betcha.
Go Oilers. I'll hop on the bandwagon as well. And that's your midday newscast for this Thursday, June 6th. Dennis Ward will be back for your afternoon newscast at 5 p.m. Winnipeg time. From everyone here in the newsroom, we thank you for watching.